We see our beloved Onija Robinson, who's still in Pakistan. It is reported that she has been admitted into a prestigious hospital where she's undergoing treatment. Those who are mental health experts have weighed in to say she's exhibiting signs of bipolar disorder. I can't speak to that as I'm a legal professional. That is not my zone of genius. She has been exhibiting signs that she is unwell. Nevertheless, I'm happy that they have facilitated treatment for her. Had she have been having this perhaps alleged manic episode in New York, it probably would not have had as good an outcome as we see it played out in Pakistan. Oftentimes the police are called whenever someone's having a psychiatric break, and the police come and they don't have the capacity to deal with mental disorders, and so it can end up being a fatal situation. So fortunately, she's in an environment where she can be cared for and given compassion and grace and dignity and treatment, and it won't bankrupt her. We see in the US that facilities are being strapped and services are being cut, so it becomes more and more challenging for a person having a difficult health moment to receive treatment. Nevertheless, she's in Pakistan, which may not have robust healthcare like compared to the United States. Nevertheless, we see them rallying and providing adequate resources for her. And this having not to do just because she's an American woman and that they want to treat her well because she's American, but also part of like the Islamic principles that are interwoven in healthcare, as well as into the community where human beings are valued and that a person deserves to be treated well and have dignity. And their healthcare model is not a profit-driven model. That's why they're not like, oh, well, she doesn't have Pakistani citizenship, so she can't undergo treatment. No, healthcare is a human right in Pakistan, as it is in every other country, with the exception of the United States. We also see Oneija single-handedly dismantle stereotypes about the Pakistani culture. One of that being that women do not have the opportunity to work and that women are not educated, and women are relegated to family roles and domestic duties, and they don't have opportunities to be part of the workforce. As we watch the footage of Oneija gallivanting around Karachi, we see her surrounded by professional women. We see police officers, several women police officers interviewing her and speaking with her. We see her with different aides. We see her going to the hairdresser. We see her going to get her eyebrows threaded. We see her at the hospital. So we see women in these roles as part of the Pakistani economy. So it dismantles the belief and the understanding that Pakistani women do not work, because we see these women as part of the workforce and having jobs outside of the home. In my research, 80% of medical students in Pakistan happen to be women. So overwhelmingly, there is a push for women to be not just educated in secondary school or university level, but at an elite level. So education is a primary focus for women. Nevertheless, even if these women do not go on to practice medicine, they still have the opportunity to be educated. Unfortunately, the women not going into practicing medicine has been one of the reasons why there is a doctor shortage in medicine. The reasons as to why they don't go on to practice medicine, perhaps it is because of social norms or because they want to be mothers and they got their education so that they can pour into their children. There may be still a tension regarding motherhood and professional women, as it exists in the West as well. We see Western women struggling with whether to become mothers or to pursue further and further in their education or their professionalism. It is a struggle for all women despite the demographics. So Pakistan's not unique to seeing a drop in women in the workforce as they enter their childbearing age and they want to enjoy being mothers. Nevertheless, Pakistan has paid maternity leave, whereas the United States has no paid maternity leave. So again, a culture that has been seen as being rather conservative has still prioritized women's right for paid maternity leave. Women on their first child receive 188 days of full paid maternity leave. The second child, they're entitled to 120 days of fully paid maternity leave, and the third child entitled to 90 days fully paid maternity leave. Unpaid maternity leave may be granted for additional children. Paternity leave. So the men also receive 30 days of full paid paternity leave for the first 3 births that their wives have. Employers who do not comply with either maternity leave or paternity leave may face up to 6 months in prison and a fine of about 100,000 rupees, Pakistani rupees, which is the equivalent of $358. Oneija's presence in Pakistan also dispels ideas that Pakistan may not be safe. Many foreigners perceive Pakistan as unsafe or inaccessible for travel. But we see her welcomed, we see her escorted, we see her cared for on every single level, therefore dispelling the myths that it's unsafe for people to travel to Pakistan unless they have heritage there. As it relates to Pakistani-American relations, recent data shows that Pakistani Americans make up a significant portion of the medical field professionals in the United States. Although percentages may vary based on where in the United States, but Pakistani Americans are the most highly educated immigrant group in the US, with strong, overwhelmingly strong representation, especially in the medical field. According to the American Association of Physicians of Pakistani Descent, there are approximately 15,000 to 20,000 Pakistani descent doctors practicing in the US. Currently, this 15 to 20% of Pakistani doctors, which represents about 2% of the US physician workforce, which is disproportionately high, being that Pakistanis only make up about 0.3% of the US population. An overwhelmingly amount of them happen to be doctors. So Oneija's presence alone has helped to bridge misunderstanding, cultural misunderstanding, orchestrated by the American propaganda machine that Pakistani people are to be feared and it's unsafe for Americans to travel there. Not only has it dismantled that fear regarding the culture, it's also exposed so many misconceptions about women being in the workforce, that women do not have rights. As you see in this video, I've laid out scenarios where women are part of the economy. That doesn't mean that there aren't some conservative viewpoints in Pakistan, as they are in the West. There are still Western men, American men, who still believe women should not be professionals. I'm sure there's men out there watching this video who are despised at the fact that there's an attorney speaking about serious issues and that this job should be relegated to men. Nevertheless, we see Pakistan pushing the needle forward in ways the US has not, especially as it relates to paid maternity leave. For a country that has been condemned by US media saying that they don't support women's rights to at least have paid maternity leave, and the US that's still not on the docket with this presidency regarding paid maternity leave. It really, really dismantles a lot of stereotypes. Let me know your questions in the comments section. Assalamu alaikum to all my Pakistani brothers and sisters. Thank you for all the love and support on the channel. Again, I do have a Move Abroad program, so if you're curious about moving abroad and you have seen essentially the warmth and the generosity displayed by other countries to foreigners like Oneija, and you want a taste of that, then come into my coaching container where you have the opportunity to work with me as an attorney, and we walk through the steps that you need to be considering so that you can have a successful move abroad. As it relates to the visa process, as it relates to healthcare in that said country, also how to secure housing, how to find appropriate schools for your children. If you are moving or you have concerns about an elder parents, should they move with you, and how to facilitate that move, that is what we flesh out in our one-on-ones as well as our group coaching. So if you're interested in that and you need to know where to start, then it would be prudent of you to come into my coaching container. Also, I do have a medical tourism trip coming up. As we see the healthcare industry crumbling in the US, this is a really good time for you to start to batten down the hatches and find alternatives for healthcare, because it's not going to be in the US. I don't see Congress, the president, any delegates getting their act together in terms of providing affordable health care in the next few years. So it would be prudent of you to think about alternatives. Medical tourism is an alternative. It's an affordable alternative. You just have to wrap it around your head that you do have to travel to another country in order to access wellness, because it is not a priority in the United States. So if that's something you're concerned about and you want to ask some questions, my email and the links will be in the description box, and I will see you next time. Khuda Hafiz to my Pakistani family, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.